Shalom, Rastafari, Assalamu alaikum, and peace to the kings and the queens of the earth. I want to just give a big shout out to everyone again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your input, your DMs, your encouragement. And I definitely will continue to do these little podcast voice rants that I get into. And I hope that everyone is also enjoying the weather, doing, anything you can to heal and relax in these times. I hope you got some sun wherever you're at. I hope you can enjoy just a little bit of peace, even if it's just by yourself. Hope you can get into that and just continue to move forward and strive. Today, I wanted to just really go into, sometimes I wake up and obviously I don't steam or smoke or do my cannabis until there's a lot of things that are done. So in the morning, me waking and baking is pretty, that doesn't really happen very often unless it's a relaxing day. And pretty much 5 to 6 days out of the week, it's probably not going to be relaxing as far as getting up, getting some work done, getting to the gym, getting errands done. So I do all that. So what I'm basically trying to say is I wake up with a rant always, right? I wake up kind of like always a little bit on edge. I think it's like the DNA in me. I remember my father would talk about his father, my grandpa, being kind of on that, always just ready, always just, just look at you and just, be on it all the time. Kind of crazy, I guess. So I have been ranting all morning, and to not get specific because I have to get, when there's numerous issues that I can talk about politically, especially. And I want to make sure that I talk about it in detail, talk about it in accuracy and form, talk about it with references, talk about it with facts, right? So what I'm basically saying is I want to make sure that any political talk that I try to have on a specific level, any kind of issue, I want to make sure that I have a lot more than just my opinion, right? And I have obviously a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that I read and absorb. But however, when it comes to specific things that I want to talk about and have my opinion on, I definitely want to arm myself and then deliver actual facts during that time. So when I do these political subject specific podcasts, again, I'm just going to make sure that I'm getting more specific and more detail. But today I wanted to just rant about the entire political Babylonian plane in the North American, AKA West society. And it has, to me, really shown the failure of democracy. It shows the failure of how people have put their faith into politicians and have those politicians turn around and not do a damn thing. It is getting to me to a point where, the definition of insanity is what? Doing something over and over again and expecting different results. And to be honest with you, this is exactly how I feel about the political plane. I feel as if that I remember growing up, all right, especially in the States, and it being such a privilege. I remember we were in school in elementary, and they would have, the fake elections, and they'd have us literally vote for, like, the president there was a vote day. They'd have us vote in the school. All right, put up a vote, which was funny because by sometimes of the school would then, you could tell where the kids, heads were at, right? I think I remember the first time I did this was the Clinton versus Bush run. And I remember Clinton won in my school, but the teachers weren't really happy about it. And then Clinton ended up winning. And then as I got older, I figured out why they didn't want Clinton in the office. It had nothing to do with what he went through. It's just because of the fact that Clinton would at least sprinkle a little pepper on the seasoning, or pepper on the steak, which we call it, which basically what I'm saying is he actually put some black people in political positions because he got that vote, right? So he had to kind of like, get her back a little bit. But those were basically what I'm trying to get at. Those were the first times of, really getting political. I think I was like a third or fourth grade or something like that. And really understanding the importance of voting. Now, again, with the education system, and I'll get into that in a different subject, I was not told the importance of voting, right? No one told me, like, as a black person, as a black man, you weren't even privileged to vote. Hell, and that was and now I'm talking about like when I was in third grade, I want to say I was like 90, it could have been like 91, 92. So they could have easily just been like, yeah, 30 or 40 years ago, you couldn't even vote. Like, legitly, this is factual. My mom could not vote. My mother now, not my grandma, whatever. My mother could not vote until she was about 27 as a black woman. And she lived in North Carolina, but this is during the time that she was living in Philly. So, yeah, I mean, understanding that the voting and the political plane should have been put to me in a different way than just, hey, you're voting, whatever. What I'm getting at is you grow up with this notion that, like, all I got to do is vote and get my good people in office and we're going to make a change. And that's just, it's becoming to the point where, you want to put faith in these politicians, but ultimately, are you going up against a monster that you cannot possibly beat, right? Because we all know that there's those politicians that will do anything in their right, and they're just gonna fight and continue to fight. And I get that, but then there's always a wall, right? It's almost like they get on the Senate floor, or they get to a point where there's a ceiling, so to speak, and this ceiling is filled with old-time racist, bigots who are just not going to fold until the day they die. As a matter of fact, they're going to continue that stronghold and pass it down from generation to generation to ensure that the people that they take care of are still on top. And most of the time, those people that they're taking care of are the conservative type of people. And I can say white and whatever, but there's also conservative blacks that need to be also called out too, this whole entire party. When you see specific people on, Republicans who are black, and you talk to them and their knowledge, it's almost as if they even just don't want to tell you to your face, but what they're actually saying is, I'm choosing money, I'm choosing what's easier, I'm choosing the American way by going with the system instead of fighting against the system. You know what I mean? So, and this isn't just a Republican thing either. All right. Now, because this is how I feel, and follow me in there. This is why I said the whole entire plane, as far as in the States and as far as in Canada, that's why I'm saying North America has failed. At one point, the Republicans were the revolutionists. The Republicans were the ones that were standing against slavery. The Republicans were kind of like the ones who were, pretty liberal, so to speak, right? They were definitely not conservative. And the Democrats were actually the racists. The Democrats were the ones that were trying to conserve the South. The Democrats, like literally, I talked to an old time Republican. I worked with her. Her name was Liz. Liz was probably about 20 years older than me. And I thank God that I sat next to her, because we would have talks. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, she would want no part of me now, because when we first started talking, I had a short haircut, still drinking, still eating cheeseburgers, not really getting into Rastafari, kind of like into the cannabis thing, but definitely not into the teachings. I was kind of, sort of getting into Black liberation, but I was just scratching the surface. So I was kind of being real nice to her. We sat next to each other all the time. She would say certain things that were ignorant, that it was just, that's how she grew up. One of the things that you don't think is ignorant, she's like, well, those locks, you're thinking about getting them, aren't they dirty? Like, little things like that. Just little, pretty much the typical European Caucasian attitude that you would have, that if you just keep yourself around specific people, you would never know. And I thank God every day that I sat next to her because I think we learned from each other, right? She used to tell me she was a Democrat, because she was pretty old. She was, she was like in the 40s and 50s. I was a Democrat when I was really young. And then I went to Republican after they, and the more I started reading now, after like 16 books and 4 years and, of liberation and change and, getting back to my identity. Now I'm like, I understand why. I started reading histories of how these things kind of like flipped over. And again, when it comes to the Republican and Democrat at this point, I have no faith in either. And I don't really even want to talk to a politician because to me, politicians are great salesmen and saleswomen. A politician can sell air to a person who's already got free air. A politician can sell water to a whale, snow to a Eskimo. Like, they can do it. You know what I mean? And, you have to have some sort of savvy. You have to have some sort of, wherewithal and swagger and leadership skills to be able to be elected to a political position. We all know that. However, to talk about everything you can do and then to be able to do it is a whole different thing, right? Like I can say, yeah, I want to go to the moon. I want to fly to the moon. But me doing it literally may be impossible. You know what I mean? It might be a wall like, well, you know what? You can't do this. So, you may not be able to go to the moon, but you may be able to do certain things. And this is the same thing with politicians I speak that say they wake up, I'm going to make a change, right? You can be a president. Obama has pretty much showed me everything, right? Like he couldn't do much. He had to fall in code with a bunch of stuff. And every time he tried to fight, they pretty much would try to just impeach him. Right? Like he would come up with a policy that would just really help the economy. Like what I can't stand is there are so many people who, especially you down south, redneck 12 gauge shot Confederate flag idiots who like, fuck Obama. Fuck Obama. He. And then you sit there and hop in your Chevy or Ford truck. Did you forget that this man literally bailed out all those companies that you drive? That good old American muscle. Yeah, he bailed them the fuck out. Not before black people, before the poor. He made sure that one of our stronghold economy systems that literally we export, because we don't export much over here in the West. We import. So something that we actually export and something that could crash our economy, he bailed those guys out. Ford, Chevy, all those American muscle cars, bailed them out to ensure that they continue to like pretty much overproduce cars, and that's what you're driving today. But for somehow, some way, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is the fact that even when a person like Obama could do something for those people, they can still turn around and just vote him out for the simple fact that they just don't like the fact that he's black, or like the fact that a black person is making the. Let me tell you something. There is not one Republican that I can believe in my heart, a true Republican in my heart, that would sit there and allow a black man to be president and change the entire plan of the country and put it into the right way. They would literally fight that just because he wasn't black or just because he wasn't white and just because of the fact that he probably wasn't Republican either. And as a matter of fact, if he was Republican, they probably only let him get a certain way. And then as far as the Democrats, what are you doing? You're talking about it. You see, we're fighting. It's almost like, see, we're fighting, but there's also a wall you get to, and then you just stop. Democrats talk about it and say they're going to do it. Republicans are just bold, like, we ain't going to do it. Fuck you. Right? And it's almost like, I guess I'd rather have a Republican because at least I'm not going to be fooled into who you are. That's the only reason why I kind of respect Republicans, because it's kind of like they just saying to your face, this is who I am. And, but I don't respect them because they will literally make themselves out to be fools, and they will purposely troll my culture. I'm not even going to say her fucking name. This Republican female idiot. I don't care. But when Trump gets arrested or whatever, you run up to Times Square, and then what you do, you compare him to quote unquote Nelson Mandela and Jesus. Donald Trump. This is the Republic. You're going to compare him to Jesus and Nelson Mandela. Okay. I don't even have to go into how stupid that actually sounds, right? I don't have to do any of that. But it just shows you what they're willing to do to not admit or to protect anybody who's pretty much white and, I guess being whatever. It's just my point is, while this is happening, while these things are going on, the people who are really suffering are the people who are on the floor, who are on the soldiers, the middle class, the single moms, the single dads, the guys holding down the household, the females holding down the house, the people paying taxes and not getting anything done but a bunch of political rigmarole. Like, it doesn't really make sense. And then as far as Canadians, liberal and conservative, they only want to talk about what Justin Trudeau's doing, eh? He ain't doing nothing. Then you get in there and you ain't doing nothing either. You get in there and what are you doing? You know what I mean? Canada is very weird because you can't even trust. The conservatives are just like these Alberta racist, but people who just, it's easy to call out Trudeau now, and then Trudeau is just like, Trudeau, I think, is just a hoe. You don't care. I don't understand what you did to this country that is progressive. What have you done? I can't name one thing. You legalized cannabis. Ooh. Anybody who, like me, who's in the cannabis community knows that wasn't the best thing. I don't know why people are celebrating legalization. Real G's know before it was legalized, it was way better. Way better. And then when you legalized it, you were able to legalize it in a form that kept pretty much the powers that be very, very rich, the government very, very rich. And I'm going to go into that in a whole different podcast. But other than that, you've done nothing. Inflation's gone up the roof. Property has skyrocketed. This is not a place where you should, really feel, if you don't have a lot of backing, a lot of places like, to work and give you $500K a year. I don't know how you could survive in Ontario right now, unless you have a great friend and y'all are, have a beautiful place together that decide to just work together. That's like your best bet. Your best bet is to find someone else, whether it be a platonic partner, a whatever, wife, husband, best friend, and y'all figure it out together, because one person's not going to be able to do it. You come here to Canada you can have a job and $10K and you still won't get a house. Hell, you better not even get an apartment that's affordable. Your job better be paying you buku bucks. So that's what you created. I mean, Toronto's becoming a big ass Manhattan. It's becoming completely unaffordable. So what have you done for this country? Biden, what have you done? Kamala Harris, what are you fucking doing? You got in there, yeah, I'm going to do something for the black. And then as soon as you get in there and we press you on it, you get defensive like a little kid. And then you go to Ghana. Meanwhile, like get the hell out of here. The powers that be have failed us. And the fucked up part about it is that I don't even know how to really fix it in that form, right? Like, do we get out and vote? Is that what we need to do? It's just like voting doesn't anything really do much, because you get those people in there, and again, there's always this like wall. You can bring it all the way up to the point where it's literally a vote for Democrat and Republican on both, and Republicans will just say no. They have the majority of the House, they'll say no. Hell, they don't have the majority of the House, and they know they can all say no, and they can literally veto this or block this or just block this from their state. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, the people, the America's failing right now. North America, Babylon really is falling. I hope people understand this is not no conspiracy thing. Well, oh my God, Rastafari been telling y'all this from the get-go, and it has been. It has not been getting better. There is nothing progressive in the West that has gotten better. What, sports, music, entertainment, culture? You can't fucking export that shit and get money back from it. That's just taken from us. That's it. Guns. Come on. So I have literally gotten deeper in my Rastafari faith, and I understood why my elders ahead of me could not stand politicians. They could not stand political anything. They hated it. They absolutely fucking hated it because they were just like, this is stupid. I'm trying to get things done. Hell, we've even had, and no more in Jamaica, we've had Rastafari political parties. And they have a place on the floor, they have a voice, and then ultimately whatever policy they want gets just vetoed out. So it's really to the point where I can start to see why people just get a farm and get the fuck away from everybody, or get a hut on the beach, get the fuck away from everybody, or go to a certain state or a certain area and just get their family together and just live. I can see why people do that, because who can you have faith in, right? Who can you possibly have faith in when the politicians are constantly fucking you over? There's times I always want to just have a conversation with them, be like, yo, but then it's like they that's what they can easily talk. That's the whole thing. They can talk their way out of anything. I bet you politicians imagine how they were when they were like kids. They probably talked themselves out of every situation that they gotten in trouble for to their parents. I remember because there's times where, like, I remember my mom even said you should be a politician. Like the way you ever talk yourself out of some shit and, like, you know, make their mind all discombobulated. Oh, you should be a politician. That's what they do. And so when I wake up and I look at what's going on in the West, I am just angry. I'm not even devastated. I'm just angry. Like, what are y'all doing? You know, literally, what are you doing? Well, we're trying our best. You don't give a fuck about the people, man. It's like whoever has the money can shift the political plane. Whoever has the struggle that can ultimately bring in more money, we're going to promote that. And I'm going to go hard on it again. I can go even deeper. I'm going to go hard on some subjects. I am. And I'm definitely going to address some things in the political form that's happening into the schools, into society. I'm addressing it. I don't care. But the first I have to address is our powers that be have failed us. And in my vote, in my time, I think it needs to be a complete do-over. America right now, if you were a football team, it'd be a situation where you're like, okay, you won some championships. It's time to rebuild, though. I'm talking fire everybody. Fire everybody. If you're the GM, I'm getting rid of everybody, including the equipment manager. Everybody's got to go. Got to start over. All the players that you thought were good and maybe they're replaceable. You can't know. This entire thing needs to get shelled down. We trade everybody. We get all the picks, and we start it over. That's what the entire states of Canada. That's what we need to do. Shell it down and start it over, and get younger, fresher minds in there that will have common sense. But I know we all know there's a system. We all know there's an internal system that is just has to continue to feed the specific people who are at powers that be. And I want them to know, I mean, at the end of the day, you can do all that, but you have to answer to somebody. And the Most High will answer you in your ways. And I'll leave it like that. Happy Friday, y'all. You have a good day.